So we're 1 week into the NBA playoffs, and it already feels like the bracket's lying to you. Because every upset you think you're watching is not random, it's a pattern. See, LeBron did more than just turn back the clock. His team quietly fixed the one flaw that was holding them back. Meanwhile, Philly didn't just steal a game, they exposed something real about Boston. And Wemby's injury is not the full story. His teammates ran into the exact matchup problem everyone overlooked. That's why today, we're breaking down one thing we've learned about every single playoff team. Let's get it. Welcome back to another edition of the Hampton Show. Joel, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Absolutely. And today we're breaking down one thing we've learned about every single playoff team, including your New York Knicks. But we're going to start with the LA Lakers. I learned two things about the Lakers after watching their first two games of the series. I learned that LeBron's still capable of a 30% usage rate, and I learned that JJ Redick is a top 5 coach in the NBA. JJ has won back-to-back 50-win seasons, and he's done it with an unhealthy lineup throughout. This year, Luka, Austin Reeves, LeBron, they could not get on the court together, and despite it, they still were a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Last year, they start the year with Anthony Davis, make a midseason trade for Luka, and still make the playoffs and win 50 games despite it. And now he's flat out coaching Ime Udoka. The actions that JJ Redick has put Luke Kennard in have unlocked their offense. It's almost like JJ saw a little bit of himself in Luke and wished Doc Rivers would have ran some actions like this for him whenever he was an LA Clipper, but his defensive strategy held KD to 3 points in the second half of game 2. And on the other side, it looks like Ime Udoka just didn't expect JJ to do the exact same thing he did to Kevin Durant in the regular season. It's really been a lack of adjustments on the Houston Rockets side of things. And what I learned from them is they have a KD-like vibe. A KD vibe is simple. There's no joy, there's no camaraderie, and there's no consistency with the way that his team plays. This has happened in Brooklyn, this has happened in Phoenix, and now it's happening in Houston. To think about how we viewed this Houston team at this point last year, they were a young, hungry, up-and-coming team. They chose to sped up the timeline this past summer, and now they're the complete opposite of that, and I don't know if Ime Udoka survives.
It's the opposite of the Chris Paul effect. Wherever Chris Paul went, he made that team amazing. They won a lot of games. He brought leadership. Kevin Durant has been the opposite. His teams have been successful because wherever he has went post Golden State, they have stacked the deck and had an absurd amount of talent. You think of Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving, then getting James Harden. You think of Phoenix, where he's now added with a team that has Devin Booker and Chris Paul already. And then they add Bradley Beal in the next offseason. And you look at Houston, a lot of people thought this team was very talented in the offseason, but as the season has progressed and through 2 postseason games, we have seen their flaws more than ever. And Kevin Durant, when it comes to what he provides on a basketball floor, I don't think he is the biggest problem or weakness with this team. The fact that Ime Udoka still has him taking up the ball and being the primary passer and decision maker is malpractice. They drafted Amen Thompson to be a point guard. They drafted Reed Shepherd to be a point guard. So I'm looking at those players that they had high hopes for developing. It hasn't happened yet. And we have to look at Ime and saying, you know, what are you telling these guys to make sure they're getting better, to put that responsibility and onus on them? I agree with a lot of what you said, but you missed out one thing that we both learned. And this is dating back to the regular season too. We learned that Marcus Smart has been a positive for the Lakers in a way that you thought he wouldn't be, in a way that in the offseason I said the Lakers had an A-plus offseason, bringing in dominating, bringing in Marcus Smart. And you saw DeAndre in game 1 play amazing. Game 2, Marcus Smart had 26 points. Luke Kennard wasn't an off-season addition, but mid-season acquisition, he was indeed. And through 2 playoff games, he's been out of this world. Maybe this Lakers supporting cast isn't as bad as we initially thought it was. And maybe they did, in fact, not only make great mid-season moves, but they had an A offseason.
Okay, the dominating claim is absurd because, number one, I have never collected the money we put down on what he was going to average in the regular season. What you bet he would average was simple. You said he would average 15 points or more, and you thought that was an easy bet. What he ended up averaging was not that. In fact, it was not even close. It was 12.5 points per game, and it wasn't double-digit rebounds. It wasn't double-doubles every night. DeAndre Ayton's been good in this series, but it's more of because of what Jackson Hayes has done on Alperen Şengün. Jackson Hayes has absolutely shut down Alperen Şengün and made us question, can the Houston Rockets build around Şengün in the long term? The Marcus Smart overreaction is laughable. The fact that he had this fluky offensive game in game 2, and you're buying into that makes me question a lot of things. And what I will give you is the Luke Kennard midseason acquisition was a very, very good deal. This is why I always push back on Lakers fans constantly talking about how bad Rob Pelinka is. Number one, he pulled off the greatest trade in the history of the Lakers franchise in Luka Doncic. Number two, instead of signing a more expensive option like Klay Thompson and asking someone else like LeBron James to take a pay cut, he just went and got a cheaper version of Klay Thompson at this point in Luke Kennard. And Luke Kennard, I think, fits better on this roster than Klay Thompson would, and he does it at a lot lesser and cheaper rate. Rob Pelinka has built this roster. It's not because of Marcus Smart scoring 20 points a night. That hasn't been him. DeAndre Ayton has been inconsistent. He's been exactly what we expected. But the number one reason the LA Lakers are ahead 2-0 in this series is JJ Redick.
Did the Lakers win a lot of games this past season?
Yes.
DeAndre Ayton wins 14 points and 9 rebounds a night. His production it directly affects the outcome of the Lakers winning and losing. DeAndre Ayton.
You're missing the point. You bet 15, and in wins, it's still not 15. It's still not 15.
You said it wasn't close. That's all I'm pushing back on. It is close. It's on just 1 point less. And when you got scorers like LeBron and Reeves and Luka, of course, DeAndre Ayton's taking a back seat. But the 9 rebounds per night, you cannot sleep on that. He's averaging a double-double and wins damn near.
They didn't win 82 games, first of all. And all 82 games are 72 that DeAndre Ayton played. It was 12.5 points, and it was 8 rebounds. That's what it was.
That's great production.
We're not sitting here just talking about wins. We're not talking about 50 of the 82 games. We're talking about 82 of the 82 games.
If Zach Edey did that, you'd be saying he's most improved player.
No, I would not. No, I would not.
Yeah.
Number one, Zach Edey was much better in a limited stretch than DeAndre Ayton was this year. Number two, we don't need to bring the Grizzlies in this conversation. You can see behind me, I still haven't let go of Ja on this wall, and I'm not going to let go for a very long time. And later in this podcast, we're going to talk about him getting traded. But let me just talk about the playoffs without bringing my team into it. Can we do that?
Well, Zach Edey, 14-11 this year. Good numbers. Good numbers.
You couldn't wait to look those up. Let's move to the Oklahoma City Thunder. One thing I learned about them is Jalen Williams still isn't fully healthy. He tweaked that hamstring yet again in Game 2, and without him, they are not good enough to beat Denver later in the postseason. That's the one thing I've taken away from the Thunder thus far.
They're going to have a cakewalk path to the conference finals, playing the Phoenix Suns, then playing the Lakers next round. There's nobody that's going to challenge them until the conference finals. Jalen Williams' injury does concern me because if he's not healthy for a series against San Antonio or Denver, I can see them losing because of that very reason. But another thing I learned, or another thing I have a gripe with, not even a learning, it's not even that I learned anything, is that when are we going to officiate OKC fairly? Because it is hard to beat them as is. They are one of the best teams that we've seen assembled in quite some time. When the referees are also giving them the benefit of the whistle every game against a Suns team that is clearly outmatched, then we have a serious problem. Devin Booker got called for a technical because somebody on OKC jawed at the ref, and then Devin Booker got called for a technical. OKC, we know they have all-world defenders. They are also allowed to play physical. It feels like they hand check. They are extremely aggressive. But whenever an opposing team tries to guard Shea that way, it's a foul. I don't mind physical defense. I actually applaud physical brands of basketball. But if we are allowing OKC to be extremely physical, then you have to allow the teams that play them to be extremely physical back. That's my only thing. If the officiating was more even and called more fairly, I wouldn't have a problem with how OKC plays. But the fact that it feels like OKC, they are the best team in the league, but they also get the benefit of the whistle is a reason why I think a lot of viewers have become disgruntled with them.
Number one, seeing this kind of heel turn of OKC this year as a Memphis fan is very flattering. Number one, they stole every flow from every other young team ever. They weren't the first ones to do the post-game celebration. They weren't the first ones to have that kind of camaraderie on camera. And now they are NBA champions. I think they're being reffed like they're NBA champions. However, one thing we both agree on is that without Jalen Williams, they are not good enough to beat the Denver Nuggets. And no matter how they're reffed, I'm going to bet on Jokic in that series, even though that they are in a dogfight right now in round one. On the Phoenix side of this, it's similar to what I said with Houston. There is one person on this team that's kind of bleeding in to the rest of his teammates and kind of sets a vibe or has an effect that is counterproductive, and that is Dillon Brooks. His MO has always been all bark, no bite. Before the playoffs, Dillon Brooks called this team, quote, the monster under the bed that teams are scared to face. It doesn't look like anybody's scared to face Phoenix. I've lived this life. Once upon a time, he poked a bear and did not show up to a press conference. I envision that exact same thing happening. He has said what he has said, and he will not show up to the press conference once they get eliminated. He's also a minus 29 through 2 games.
He had 30 points in game 2 and shot well. Game 1 was awful. I'm not denying that. And that minus 30 has a lot to do with game 1 because they all got smoked. Yeah. But game 2, he played well. He bounced back. The Suns are just outmatched. I mean, they don't have the talent that OKC has. They have to play perfect. And if they don't play perfect, if they have a string of 3 bad possessions, OKC will take an 8 to 10 point lead. That's where it's gotten to. And not everybody can play perfect for all 48 minutes. So I think with the Suns, what I've learned is that this is a team that has upside, and they're not ready. They don't have the talent yet to compete at the highest of high levels, but this offseason is going to be intriguing for them in what they do. Do they try to go get Devin Booker a point guard? Is Ja Morant a target for them? We've seen that rumor already happen. We've seen the chatter around it. Do they try to go after Ja Morant? Or next year, is their move just playing Rasheer Fleming, Kemba Malawach, and continue to bank on Jalen Green's development? So it's going to be interesting what Phoenix decides to do this offseason, but I don't think they would be wrong in any approach they try to take unless it's giving up all the young players they have for a big megastar trade like Giannis. I understand Giannis is Giannis and he would move a needle, but if you have to give up Malawach and Fleming and all the players that you have basically developed this entire year.
Has he developed?
Yes. Malawach played really well in game 2.
You're going to be able to watch him at Summer League again this summer. You excited about that?
And Malawach is awesome. I mean, I don't know why you think Malawach isn't going to be good.
Awesome is just a crazy adjective right now. That's all I'm saying.
Malawach is awesome. He's really good.
I have no beef with Malawach. I just don't have an opinion yet. I haven't seen it.
It's just the thing with the Suns is that if they trade for Giannis, it still doesn't put them in the championship contender status. So it doesn't even make sense to do something like that.
Yeah, I don't think they will. Matt Ishbia talked about on end about how much he learned from the KD situation. He thought he could buy championships. He saw and learned that wasn't true. I doubt he makes that same mistake again. There was a reason that Ja Morant was in a suite in Phoenix at a play-in game last week. I feel like Matt Ishbia bought him that suite, or Ja bought himself that suite to actually see this team in person and see what he would be working with. There's no other explanation why Ja would be in a suite in Phoenix watching a play-in game if they were not interested in him. The floated proposed mock trade is Ja Morant for Jalen Green straight up. On the Grizzlies side, I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, but based off of everything Zach Kleiman has said, I don't think they want to take a whole lot of future money in return. And Jalen Green still has a couple years left on that deal. I would be shocked if that's the deal he takes. And with how soured this relationship between Ja and Memphis's front office is, I think Memphis is at the point where they're going to take the best deal. They're doing right by Ja is far gone. and is not in the equation. It's going to be the best deal, and the best deal is not going to be a good deal. It's just not. But taking on Jalen Green, they can do better than that.
Jalen Green has 2 years left on his contract. 26-27 season, $36 million. 27-28, $36 million. It's a player option. He probably accepts it unless he has a crazy year, declines it, and banks in free agency, which Jalen Green has the talent to do so. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. Ja Morant has 3 years left on his deal. Mm-hmm. So if the Grizzlies are looking at an avenue to get out of Ja's deal earlier and just take on Jalen Green for 2, it makes sense. If I'm the Suns, or if I'm both, like if I'm the Suns and if what it takes is Jalen Green and let's say Royce O'Neal, then I'd do it. And if I'm the Grizzlies, if I'm getting Jalen Green and Royce O'Neal back, I'd probably do it. And if they're not in love with Jalen Green, then you can always ship him off to a third team that maybe is willing to take him on and get an asset that way. I don't know. We'll see. But based on what Trae Young got traded for midseason, that's kind of the package that I think is going to be what's floating around for Ja.
Yeah, and you add, like you said, another year to Ja's deal. Trae had 2 years left. Ja has 3. That's why this market is even worse than it already is. Not to mention he averaged 19 points and career low points per game and efficiency. But the Phoenix Suns seem like the number one option right now. They had the season they did long before Jalen Green got healthy. So even if it doesn't work out with Ja, it's not really that much lost if it doesn't work out in Phoenix. Let's move on to the San Antonio Spurs. One thing I learned about them is the importance of Wemby. That's an obvious statement, but you would think against the Blazers with the supporting cast that Wemby has had, they would be able to survive. They have, of course, struggled with that, and De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle haven't been good enough in Wemby-less minutes. Fox has been inefficient and ineffective offensively, and if he can clean that stuff up, I think this is going to be a short series just like everyone predicted.
Wemby's not going to be available for Game 3. I think he's been ruled out already, if I'm not mistaken. What I learned is that this is De'Aaron Fox's time to prove his worth to the team. If Wemby is not there for Game 3, we're talking about De'Aaron Fox. Denny Advia has lapped him this year. Denny Advia shouldn't already be better than De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox should still, I believe, be the best player in the series, even if Wemby's not out. With Wemby missing Game 3, what I learned is that this is De'Aaron Fox's time to take over. This is your time to go out for 30. This is your time to put your will on his team and say, no, you got another all-star you can rely on, and that's me. We're going band for band, all-star versus all-star, and I'm going to dominate. That's what I want to see from De'Aaron Fox. Because if he continues to play like this, it's hard to justify the contract that they gave him, and there's going to be no market for him via trade.
Yeah, this is what we continue to come back on. De'Aaron Fox doesn't have 1 year left, 2 years left, or even 3 years left. 4 years left on the contract. And next year it's 49. The year after that it's 53. The year after that it's 57. And in year 2030, De'Aaron Fox at the age of 32 is going to be making $61.3 million, 32% of the cap on a roster that will have Victor Wembanyama under a max contract. What does that do for championship chances if you still have De'Aaron Fox on the roster? That is the reason why I have concern for the Spurs' future. It has nothing to do with Victor Wembanyama. I think he's going to win multiple championships, but De'Aaron Fox either has to figure this out or they have to figure out a future plan does not involve De'Aaron Fox, because Wemby in 2030 is going to be making probably 35% of the cap. De'Aaron Fox, if he's making 32, that's two guys that are making 70% of the money on a team that's going to have 15 players on it. So De'Aaron Fox, this is his time, you're right, to go band for band with Denny and to prove his worth, because how he performs over these next couple games without Wemby, if that's the case, is going to determine the path that the San Antonio Spurs take moving forward.
The Spurs are visionaries. That's what they are.
Yes.
They signed De'Aaron Fox to that long-term deal because they knew that the expansion draft is not too far away, and they can leave Fox unprotected, and a team that's an expansion team would happily take on a former all-star that has some marketability. And that's how they get off the contract. So the Spurs realized what was coming. They saw what was happening in their horizon, and they said, listen, this is a 5-year deal, but really it's a 3-year deal because we don't plan to protect them past these 3 years.
There's no way they banked on an expansion draft. I appreciate your creativity, and it is a phenomenal segue that you just took, but there's no way they are banking on that to get out of the De'Aaron Fox business. They did it because they got squeezed by Rich Paul, and they knew in order to trade for De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento and get the great deal that they got, they would have to sign him to all this money. That's the reason. It's not because we know we can get out of it in a couple years because of the expansion draft. Come on, let's get serious.
I am serious. If he is the first pick in the 2028 expansion draft, I want a big apology from you.
He's not going to be the first pick at age 31 making $57.4 million. It's not going to happen.
He'll be one of the top picks.
Okay. All right, move on. Portland Trailblazers, other side of this series. I learned that they are formidable despite outside noise about their owner. We've all heard the cheapness of this new owner. Those that don't know, he took place as the acting CEO of the team on March 31st, and going into the playoffs, they're the only playoff team who are not letting two-way players travel with the team, support staff travel with the team, a team photographer travel with the team. I read a report the other day that players are not getting treated before the games because the owner is making the team masseuse check out of hotels early to avoid late fees. That's the kind of outside noise they're dealing with, and despite that, they were still able to steal a game in San Antonio.
I learned that this is a gritty team. Scoot Henderson, I learned that there's still something to be desired within his game. I'm rooting for Scoot. He was a top prospect. He came in with a lot of hype. He was uber athletic. Since he's come back this year, he's been solid. Game 1, he played good off the bench, and then Game 2, he was the biggest reason why they won the game, having 30 points. So I think there's still something there with Scoot Henderson. And overall with the Blazers roster, they play hard. Game 1 felt like it was much closer than the score ended up being, because it only took a run or two that the Spurs went on to kind of blow the game away, but the Blazers hung in there for a lot of it. So I think this is a really good team. They play hard. They have good game plans. And Game 3 without Wemby, who knows? They could go up 2-1.
Yeah, definitely could. Denver Nuggets still in the Western Conference. Staying in the Western Conference, I should say. Aaron Gordon, I think, may not last. That's the thing I learned from them. The calf soreness he's already battling is not a good sign for the future. You and I both predicted them to go to the NBA Finals. That doesn't happen without Aaron Gordon. So I learned that his soreness that he is battling could be a cause for concern and something that we are monitoring for the future.
I learned that Denver's defense might not be good enough to win the championship. It's awful. And I think having a bad defensive center is more detrimental to your team defense than having a bad perimeter or wing defender, because you are responsible for everybody that comes into the paint and resisting their shot, and Jokic doesn't provide any resistance whatsoever. Minnesota was attacking him constantly, but they were attacking a lot of their defenders too. They clearly don't respect anybody defensively on that team, and Minnesota went after it. This is going to be a long, grueling series. Minnesota knows how to play them. They have the personnel. They have Anthony Edwards, who, he can get into the paint whenever he wants against this team, and he can really make Jokic pay for being down there and trying to contest his shots. So there's basically no resistance at the rim for Denver whatsoever. And another thing I learned is that Rudy Gobert deserves respect for how this series is going. These are 2 straight games where he has completely played elite defense on Jokic. In Game 2, he locked them up in the fourth quarter. Jokic went 1 for 7 in the fourth. Rudy Gobert was the reason for that. Jokic was airballing threes. He was playing that right shoulder, not making sure he gets these hook shots off. And Rudy Gobert's smarts, his IQ, his athletic talent, his feel for the game, it was on full display. And he dunked on Jokic, and it was emphatic, and that's when you knew the game was over. And there's somebody on this show that continues to disrespect Rudy like he's not a 4-time defensive player of the year, like he's not one of the best defenders of this generation, like he doesn't impact team defense beyond levels that numbers can't even comprehend. Those are all things that you have said that Rudy Gobert, you're saying, he's overrated. He's overrated. Nobody rates Rudy. Well, they won Game 2 because of Rudy Gobert, so show some goddamn respect for once.
Number one, I never said any of those things. I never called him overrated. I never say that he doesn't impact team defense. I could never fathom spewing out that venom of a statement. And number two, this is why the discourse around Gobert gets either way too exaggerated or way too understated. He's somewhere in the middle. He's a fantastic defender, one of the greatest of this generation. However, you're bringing up Jokic airballing threes as a part of what Gobert has done in this series. There's a lot of great things that Gobert has done, but Jokic missing outside shots is not one of them.
And why is he tired? Why? Who is guarding him on those outside shots, Jack? He's seeing the length of Rudy Gobert's arms, and he's saying, wow.
Yeah, Jokic
how
really
am I going to get my shot off?
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic got locked up by Rudy Gobert.
They will adjust, and Denver will win this series. I don't care if Aaron Gordon has to miss time. They will adjust, and Denver will win this series. Number one, because Julius Randle is the second best offensive player. We know what he is capable of in the playoffs, and that is a disappearing act, i.e. last Western Conference Finals. And number two, Gobert, as great as he's been, the defense around him, outside of him and Jaden McDaniels, that has been the problem. And Chris Finch said this going into the postseason. I don't know where our defense would be without Rudy Gobert. And that is a testament to what you were saying. He has been great. However, I question everything around him. It reminds me of Utah. Everything funneling into him at one point, the code's going to get cracked and they're going to get beat.
They have good defenders. It's not like Utah.
Yeah,
Utah didn't have a Jaden McDaniels. Utah didn't have Anthony Edwards. Hasn't been that good on defense this year, but when he locks in, he's locked in. They don't have an Anthony Edwards. They don't have an Ayo Dosunmu. They don't have that, Jack. The Timberwolves have that. And you saying it's somewhere in the middle of Gobert? No.
I'm just regurgitating Chris Finch's words. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing.
And the eye test shows us that Gobert is all the way here. When we talk about defensive impact, he's one of the very best. And you better start respecting him.
Okay. Why didn't he get a single vote for Defensive Player of the Year?
Because the voters are dumb.
Okay, yeah.
That's why.
Wemby became the first unanimous, and he deserved every single vote. That's why.
Do you seriously think that Asar Thompson should have been a finalist over Rudy Gobert?
No, I don't. But I'm saying Rudy Gobert did not get one first place vote. I'm not talking about finalist.
It's Victor Wembanyama. That's it. That's it. That has nothing to do with Gobert, though. That's just Wemby's greatness. But Gobert was one of the three best defenders in basketball. You can argue he's the second best defender in basketball.
Yes, we can find common ground. Yes, he was one of the best three defenders in basketball. Yes, Joel. Is that what you wanted to hear? So I'm showing some goddamn respect.
Yeah. Show some respect to Rudy because after his Game 2 performance, he deserves it. And if Minnesota wins this series, it's going to be largely because of how Rudy's guarding Jokic.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair. I can't even argue anymore. Let's go to the Eastern Conference. New York Knicks. One thing I learned about them is the bench play is still inconsistent. Game 1, they showed up. Game 2, they were outscored with Brunson on the bench. That is a problem, and they kind of trailed off and ran out of gas in the Eastern Conference Finals, especially their bench. Now we need to see some more consistency from that, and hopefully Mike Brown can find it.
What I learned is that at all times you need either Cat or a Brunson on the floor.
Yes, simple.
It's as simple as that. The non-Brunson and Cat minutes killed them in Game 2. In the fourth quarter, they had a lineup of Alvarado, Clarkson, Mikal, OG, and Mitchell Robinson. You just don't have enough creation. I love OG, but the creation is not there. It's probably never going to be there. You have to stop trying to rely on that. Mikal Bridges, we know what it is at this point. Jordan Clarkson, he can get hot, but he can get cold. And Jose Alvarado is very undersized, and he's going to get picked on, even though he tries on defense. And offensively, he doesn't have a consistent jumper. And when he drives to the basket, he's not a consistent finisher. So I like what they bring in as spark plugs, but in every lineup that you have, you need to have a go-to scorer. And I felt like if Cat replaced one of Alvarado or Clarkson in the lineup, and then you had, let's say, Alvarado, Mikal, OG, Cat, and Mitch, it's a much better offensive lineup because you play through Cat. If they try to double him, you have shooters on the outside, or you have a big center that's ready to catch a lob. There are more ways you can play versus saying, okay, Mikal or OG, go get your own basket, or Alvarado or Clarkson, go make something happen. I just think that those lineups are killing the Knicks. One of the two have to be on the court, and it helps staggering them because we saw in the fourth when Brunson and Cat are on the floor together, Brunson is the one taking all the shots. Brunson is the guy they're going to. So now Cat isn't getting involved. He's not getting into a rhythm. But if you stagger them, you could have started the fourth quarter with Cat starting to get into more of a rhythm. And it's not like he didn't play well. Like he played well. He was efficient. He just didn't take enough shots.
What was your reaction to the Mikal Bridges final shot?
He needed to shoot it. I wish that he would have taken it to the basket, but I mean, you live with the result. There wasn't a timeout to be called in that situation. They confirmed it that the broadcast that showed there was a timeout that was fake. It was false.
Yeah.
So I just Mikal is hot and cold too, and that's the thing is like we need a better version of him as well.
Yeah, I know that you'd been singing that song all year long. You can play couch quarterback and say he should have driven and gotten more contact. I think that was the best possible shot. I to be honest, was pleasantly surprised to hear your reaction. I thought it would be because Joel, you have been so excited to dunk on Mikal Bridges at every point in this season, and him missing that shot, I felt like was the pinnacle of the Knicks' frustration, and his lack of consistency as a scorer has hindered him throughout this new Mike Brown system, and the fact that it ended on that, not going to the basket, not going into contact, I thought that would be more the conversation coming out of New York.
He had a good steal late in the game. The Knicks just couldn't capitalize on it. But he made a really good play that could have maybe won the Knicks the game if we had a better offensive sequence. CJ McCollum, man, it's just he had a great game. He was picking on Brunson and had his way. But one of the last baskets he hit was on a left side against OG and Anunoby. McCollum just was having that type of game. It just didn't matter. So I think Brunson's going to try to compete on defense, but at all times, you need to put him on the weakest offensive player.
Yes. All right. With the Hawks, it was CJ McCollum still an elite scorer. Just want to say that. That's the thing I learned. The Pistons, I think they're still learning how to win in the playoffs. I know they bounced back game 2. They did so in an extremely effective manner. However, game 1, it just looked like they were asleep at the wheel. And teams who have won championships know that it's a long series. It's a long path to the NBA Finals. However, you cannot take an opponent for granted. I don't know if the Magic are going to get another game, but you saw this with Boston previous to their 2024 title run is they would always drop games like this, and they eventually just found out how to run the marathon and eventually win the title. That's what it feels like Detroit's still in the process of doing.
I learned that Detroit is going to have to be historically elite on defense to make the NBA Finals. There's no other way to put it. They were elite against Orlando game 2, but the offense still was a problem.
No other ball handler outside of Cade Cunningham.
I don't believe they'll be able to beat Cleveland in the second round with the offense they're playing right now. Even with their defense being all world, it's just too many problems. And Orlando has guarded Jalen Duren well. First game, he took 4 shots. Game 2, he had 11 points. And I think he only took 10 shots on the night. So they have a game plan to neutralize Duren, who's averaging 20 points per game on the season. So you copy and paste that game plan, and now K's the only score you got to worry about. It becomes rough for Detroit. So their defense is what's going to have to propel them to wins, which it has in the regular season, but we know the playoffs is a different story.
Yeah, if Detroit slips up and ends up having a 6-game or longer series in the first round, and the Cavaliers don't capitalize on that, I can't imagine that's going to do for Donovan Mitchell's future, James Harden's future. The Cavs definitely need to capitalize on this team, and I will give you props. You might end up being right about the Cavs after all. The Magic on the other side of this, I learned that they have at least a little bit of gas left in this Jamal Mosley tank. I don't know how much is left. I think he still gets fired no matter what happens in this series. However, they showed up in game 1 and they won.
They're wildly inconsistent. That's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Game 1 was phenomenal. Game 2, Paulo struggled. Franz struggled. It's just really not a good fit. And I think everybody's just trying to sell you on it being a good fit, and they should prolong this experiment. I think it's lying to themselves. I think that it's time to pick one or the other, and who it is, that's up for everybody else to decide who they think is better. I'm not going to get into that, but I think Jamal Mosley's also not going to be the coach next year. And maybe if they win this series, then you think about it, but I think it would actually hurt the Magic long term if they do win this series and keep Jamal Mosley rather than help them.
And it's really a shame because Desmond Bane has lived up to all 4 first-round picks they gave up to him. Ultimately, it never ended up being a lottery pick that they gave up for Desmond Bane. He played all 82 games, and yes, he struggled at certain points throughout the season. However, I think he has proved his worth, and still, despite that, because of coaching and headbutting between Paolo and Mosley, it has the effect of being inconsistent, like you just described. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I think the thing I learned the most about them is the power of Dean Wade and what he can be as a playoff caliber defender. Brandon Ingram, yes, I know is not an all-NBA type of player, but what Dean Wade has done is sustainable for the future, especially in the second round against the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, Dean Wade's defense is needed for a team that doesn't have many perimeter positional defenders. Cleveland is rolling. I'm learning that it's not even something that I learned. I feel like it should have been known, but how much better James Harden makes his teammates. James Harden is getting the best version out of Evan Mobley. James Harden is getting the best version out of Jared Allen. This starting 5 hasn't even played that many minutes together. They're one of the best starting 5s in basketball. James Harden has made Donovan Mitchell's life a lot easier. And the Cavaliers, although it's been one round, they have been justified in making the trade because Harden, at the very least, you can count on his playmaking and mastery of the game, and also that he'll be healthy. He's dealing with a finger injury still, and he's still playing well out there. But his shot making, his playmaking, the combination, and the fact that he's 6'5" versus a Garland that's 6'1", it just gives them more defensively, even if he's not a quote-unquote good defender. I've learned that the Cavaliers can represent the East in the NBA Finals. I think they're that good. I think people are still kind of wary because of their struggles in the past. They've never made it to the conference finals. But looking at this team on paper, they're probably one of the most talented teams in the Eastern Conference.
Number one, I don't think they can beat Boston or New York. That has not changed after watching them play 2 games against the Raptors. Number two, you are right about the starting 5, and you are right about what James Harden has done for that starting 5. They played 92 total minutes together. The lineup of Mobley, Jared Allen, James Harden, and Donovan Mitchell played a total of 92 minutes together, 7 total games together going into the playoffs, and they look like this. They've hit the ground running, but I'm not overreacting what they're doing to this Toronto team. I have been wrong about what Toronto could be in the playoffs. I didn't expect them to win 3 games, but I expected 1 or 2, and now I don't even know if that is possible. Cleveland got the best break in the Eastern Conference, and they needed the best break. Anytime you make a mid-season trade like that, it's always going to take more time, and I feel like this is a perfect first-round series to figure it out in. Boston Celtics, the next team on this list. I learned that they're more vulnerable than I thought. Yes, we both have the Knicks beating them in the second round. However, we didn't see the 76ers putting up a fight. And the reason the 76ers have put up a fight, and the one thing I've learned about them, is that VJ Edgecombe is ready for the moment. And Tyrese Maxey can be the best player in a series that also has Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown in it. Tyrese Maxey, yes, he can.
He was better in the game, but he won't be better in the series. Let's stop it.
We'll see.
Let's stop it. Let's stop it.
He's been really good this year. I don't know if you've been watching, but he's been.
Jalen Brown's been better. Who's first team and who's not?
I'm talking about a series. We'll see who's been better in the series.
It's going to be one of Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. Get excited all you want. Sixers won game 2. Hooray. Throw a pizza party. They're losing the next 3. Boston's winning in 5. They're advancing. Game 2, awesome. VJ Edgecombe, I think he's a future star. What I learned is that even with Boston's vulnerabilities, they will get by this series easily. The problem becomes the series that they have to play next and the one after that, because the Celtics lack experience, they lack a front court, and Derek White can't shoot the ball. He is an all-world defender. He impacts the game mightily on that end. But when you're shooting 38% from the field and 33% from 3, and you can't hit your shots consistently, now you have an offensive perimeter liability in Derek White because he can't shoot the ball. You have Neemias Queta at center, and then who else is in the lineup? Is it going to be Payne Pritchard, a small guard who bleeds a lot of defensive value? Is it going to be a Hugo Gonzalez or a Jordan Walsh or a Baylor Shireman? the Celtics aren't as complete as in years past. And if you're tasking Derek White with being the primary perimeter defender while also giving you off-ball value with his shot blocking, you're asking for way too much, because in the past, Drew Holiday took on that primary assignment. So now with him not there anymore, it can get rough for Boston. They are more vulnerable this year, and this was supposed to be a gap year for them regardless. But that's why I'm not as high and bought in as Boston, just coasting through the East and beating everybody, because I think that they have flaws that people are ignoring.
Number one, I don't think Tyrese Maxey is a better player than Jalen Brown. That's not what I said. The Celtics, in the situation they are in, they are still trying to reincorporate Jason Tatum into this team. It is different than trying to do it in the month of March when you're playing a tanking team every other night. The 76ers, yes, are without Joel Embiid, but Tyrese Maxey, in the usage that he has, can be a better player than Tatum and Brown in this series. He has been a more efficient scorer than Jalen Brown all season long. I'm not saying that the 76ers are going to steal another game. I am just saying that Tyrese Maxey is built for this moment, and he has been built for this moment. My question was always VJ Edgecombe, and what I saw in Game 2 was very encouraging for the future of the Philadelphia 76ers, because the only thing that's going to save Daryl Morey from getting fired is VJ Edgecombe, and he might have just done it.
Hey, listen, Tyrese Maxey is an exceptional player. Never said he wasn't. All I said was he won't be the best player in this series.
We'll revisit it next week. It's TikTok time, Joel. We are going to do 3 different segments, and then we will close out the podcast. So the first one is we're going to debate if these NBA players have won their last championship. So, Joel, have these NBA players won their last title? First one up is Stephen Curry.
What do you mean? What's the question exactly? Have they won their last title?
Yeah, have they won their last title? Has Steph Curry won his last title for his career?
Steph Curry, yes. He's not going to win another championship.
Yeah, easiest question on this list. Next one, LeBron James.
To be determined, because he can go wherever he wants this offseason. He's already said that he's not going to take a pay cut. It seems like he's never going to take a pay cut. If LeBron doesn't take a pay cut, then yes, he's won his last championship.
There's no TBD to it. He has won his last title. You're talking this year, which is not going to happen, and next year, no matter if he goes to Cleveland, no matter if he goes to Golden State or stays in LA, I think he has won his last title. Kevin Durant.
What if he goes to Denver? Wait, what if he goes to Denver?
LeBron James is not going to go to Denver. He has been very wary of his legacy since joining the Miami Heat, since joining the Cleveland Cavaliers, since joining the LA Lakers. The last thing he wants to do is rewrite that legacy that he is obsessed with and join a super team.
Fair enough.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, for sure. He's won his last title.
Yeah, it's a vibe thing. Like I said earlier, his last 3 teams have all had no joy, no camaraderie, and no consistency. Next one, Giannis.
Yes.
I don't think he's won his last title, Joel. If he leaves for a team in the Eastern Conference, specifically in New York, I think he can win another one. Next, Kawhi Leonard.
He's won his last title. I don't see him leaving the Clippers. I think he's going to stay with the Clippers for the rest of his career, and I don't see the Clippers winning a title.
I agree. Health just is not reliable enough at this point in his career. Jason Tatum is the next name.
No, he hasn't won his last title. He will win another one.
He has more to win. Agreed there. Nikola Jokic.
No, he has not won his last title.
Agreed. All right, next segment. Should these NBA teams blow it up or run it back? First one up, Golden State Warriors.
They should run it back. Don't blow it up because you don't want to waste Steph's final years completely. And I want to see Steph retire with Golden State. Jimmy Butler comes back next year. You bring back Kristaps Porzingis, who, if he's healthy, can make an impact. And they could very well be players in this Giannis deal. And if they get Giannis and pair him up with Steph Curry, that's why you don't blow it up.
Look, I want Steph Curry to retire as a Warrior, but if they want to win at all for the next 5 years, if they don't get Giannis Antetokounmpo, they probably should think about trading Steph Curry. I wouldn't if I were them, but it would at least be a conversation. Next team, Houston Rockets.
Yes, their young all-stars overrated in Alperen Şengün. Kevin Durant is not the needle mover that they thought he was, and Amen Thompson can't shoot. I don't think that you have to trade everybody, but I would definitely be looking at trading Alperen Şengün in the offseason.
He's the only one that has all-star-like trade value. Alperen Şengün is the one to trade. Toronto Raptors.
They can't blow it up. They can't blow it up because Emmanuel Quickley has a untradeable contract. So does Jakob Poeltl. So does Brandon Ingram. They have surrounded Scotty Barnes with the worst possible fits and contracts. It's been absurd how they built their team.
Their starting lineup cost a combined $150 million this season alone. It's not worth running it back for that price, but I don't know if they have a choice to trade. LA Clippers.
No, they brought in some young talent, Benedict Mathurin, Darius Garland, Isaiah Jackson. They have some young talent that they already had in-house, and Kobe Sanders and Yannick. They shouldn't blow it up. And if you get that pick, it falls between 5 through 9, and you get that pick from Indiana, you add another young player to the roster, they're fine how they are.
I think they should at least think about it. It depends all on that pick at the lottery next month. However, Kawhi Leonard, his value right now is higher than it has been over the last half decade. It at least elicits a phone call to test out what all they could get. They could get all the picks that they lost over trades in the previous years to acquire All-Stars. I think it's at least a conversation to trade Kawhi Leonard. Final name on this list, Orlando Magic.
Not completely. I think you trade one of Franz or Paolo, and that's the move that you make.
Paolo for Giannis works. Just saying. I don't know if Milwaukee would take it, but that works on paper. Final segment, Joel. Which NBA player will be traded first, Giannis or Ja Morant?
Giannis.
Giannis, because there's no market for Ja until that gets resolved. I think a team gets desperate after they strike out on Giannis, desperate enough to potentially go after Ja Morant. Cat or Domantas Sabonis?
Domantas Sabonis. But I don't know who would take him on, but it is Sabonis.
If the Knicks get bounced, I think it has a chance to be Karl Anthony Towns. Zion or Kawhi Leonard?
Zion Williamson. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is ever going to get traded from the Clippers. Maybe the Clippers are forced to release him because of the aspiration stuff, but I think Zion gets traded first.
I agree. Zion or Donovan Mitchell?
Zion Williamson.
I go Don. If the Cavs get bounced in the first or second round, I don't know if that's possible, but I could see Donovan Mitchell getting traded before Zion Williamson. Donovan Mitchell or Kawhi Leonard?
Donovan Mitchell, because it's more likely he gets traded than Kawhi. I don't think Kawhi is leaving the Clippers.
Kawhi's locked. I got Donovan Mitchell as well. Joel, appreciate you taking the time today. Look forward to next week. Settling. Tyrese Maxey going to be the best player in that series over 5, 6, 7 games. Who knows how long it goes. But appreciate you taking time, bro.
Thank you for having me on.